So don't do this at home. Now we'll have high voltage as... What the hell? Did I short something? Okay, retry. So don't do this at home. Now as soon as I turn on this... What the f? What is this? Ow! One of these days. Send the lens. And here is my handicraft. Let's measure and see where we are. It's higher. I made my own taser back in my old video. The arcs can jump well. You don't bring your finger close to a stun gun when it's running. Everyone can build something like this or even stronger, but it might not be legal everywhere. Hi, I completed my 1 Tesla kit assembly and I'm excited to try it together. Let's dim the lights. You should always keep a proper distance from Tesla coil. Let's play Pink Panther. Might actually follow the standards. So if she was in fact electrocuted, then why? Oh, maybe she dropped the wall adapter in the water, completely submerged it, and then plugged it in. Ow! So I guess this is pretty dead. See, soapy water is much more conductive than regular water. It shorts everything together, and with everything soaked, it just takes the electricity straight from the contacts to your fingers. And with you standing in the top, close to the earth, it runs through your body to earth and can shock you. But I don't think that's what happened either. She was an intelligent girl. She wouldn't just pick up a fully soaked wall adapter and plug it into the power. Might be something else. Okay. Slippery. I could take it off. Ow! On this circuit, that's responsible for the timing. And you can see a tiny negative sign beside it. That means that that side needs to be connected to ground or negative box. The tip of the gun here simulates a human finger. Always be careful with your tools. Now, they usually zap a completely assembled unit. But sometimes it's also beneficial to zap a bare board like this one and see what happens on the actual board. Never hold the board you're zapping with your hand because the ESD will jump to your body through the board. Now to check my body tolerance, I set the output to minimum. At 0 volts it's pretty... Oh, I set it to max. It will be lethal in your mouth, but I can do that too. stupidity. My elbow was sitting on one of these wires and the current went through my tongue to my elbow. Even I can feel the electricity with my finger, so I'll put it in the water. Nothing. Let's get close to the wires. Nothing. Still nothing. Oh, I'm starting to feel it here. What is this? Oh, there's a cut on this finger and the electricity can go through it much easier. You know, the flesh under the skin is much more conductive. I have a solution that will make you work out for dear life. It's called workout or die. It's a simple device. It's a belt that you tie around your belly with a tiny device that senses your motion. As long as you move, you're okay. But if you stop for any reason, it'll zap you like a mother. You will move no matter what, or else you will feel the pain. The device may often false trigger. The belt is very hard to open. It's made of very durable material resistant to sharp objects and it cannot be cut. So you will run until the batteries die or you die. Just kidding, we have never had failed batteries. Please don't hurt anyone, including yourself. The device is very simple. It runs on 2 AA or AAA batteries and has 2 electrodes on the bottom and turns on with a switch. Now if you don't move, it says... Look at this, it's like the entire city of New York in here. Let's see if my thermal camera can figure out what's broken. Obviously the heat is coming from that corner of the board. I wonder what it is. How hot is it? Wow, 135 degrees Celsius? So this black chip is broken, and judging by the number of inductors around it, I assume it's the main power supply for the board. I made this simple circuit and I'll plug it in. Now the circuit is hot and the voltage is on the... Something you must never forget is that some capacitors, like electrolytic ones, are polarized and you must never connect them backwards or they will blow up. Now I have replaced the capacitor on my circuit and I'll plug it in. In addition to polarity, the capacitors must be rated properly to be able to handle the voltage across them, or they will blow up, obviously for you. To measure the 120 volt AC, I put the meter on AC and I measure the voltage. Oh my God! Sometimes when you're probing a line, you might touch the probes, but never forget about the voltage on the probes. And each pair is attached to one of these cables, which we can plug them into the wall power plug. Please join me for the first time to hear how it sounds. And 1, 2, 3, 4. It definitely made me sound like a rock star, although it feels more like an electric chair than a guitar. Here I've opened the camera, but the first thing to remember is that there are a lot of bits and pieces and small and large screws that go in the camera. So always remember what goes where and store them nicely to avoid losing them. Now let's take a look at the camera here. There are a number of electronic circuits in the camera and there are connectors everywhere, like this one, a connector here, 2 connectors there, 1 connector here. This is actually a connector, and if you can see, there is a connector under the connector here. And if I flip the camera, and you can see the lens here, and if I remove the lens, you'll see the giant flash capacitor back here. Ow! Piece of shit! Apparently the flash capacitor is holding around 300 volts of charge in it, and it can hurt a lot if you touch it. So I remove the head and rotate it and mount it on the tail by piercing into the tail. Well, never pierce a hole towards your body. This tail is a little bit tough, so I'm going to drill a hole into it. Do not drill, pierce, cut or do anything dangerous towards your body parts. And if you think the scene you just saw was so fake, lame and unreal, then let me show you my hand. This is a stab wound from many years ago when I tried to pierce open something with a knife and the knife tripped. And this volts. So for example, if I connect my 12 volt supply here to the primary and charge it and then disconnect it, the voltage of the primary should jump up, creating a huge voltage on the secondary here that should create a spark. Let's try it out. There is nothing. Is there actually a voltage? Well, my theory was right. Obviously there is high voltage on the secondary, but the problem is that that high voltage pulse period is so short it can't create an arc. But there's source. Let's try it out. Wow, this is wild. You can see how far... It's a strange pain. It's as if somebody is stabbing your finger, but the blade, it doesn't stop there. It keeps going through your veins until it reaches your heart. I love it. I made it look more like a taser by gluing these nails to it. Let's look at it spark now. This gap is quite wide. Let me measure it for you. Well, you know, metal is generally conductive and electrons always find the easiest path to travel. Okay, let me show you how well it works. First, without the anti-pair. Some under. If I can just pass these cables under the table here. Always finish your wiring before connecting to your power supply. Now instead I'm going to use my power limited supply up here that will drive this pump that's made of this DC brushed motor here, and it's going to run fluid into the cylinder back here that will move it around. Now I enable the power supply. Always double check your connections. Using the knife is dangerous and will not work. I've seen some women back in Iran that burn their arm hair off on a stove, and I'm gonna try that. I have my lighter fuel here and my fire extinguisher in case anything goes wrong. Just put a dab of this on my mustache and I'm ready to go. Whoa! This is a air horn. Make yourself familiar with your tools. The fuse box should be somewhere in the... The hood has a stand that has to be securely placed into the hood hole. Get together, I'm gonna shoot the box. I put the bullet in and there's a switch here that acts like a trigger. So here we go. Well, it's always wise to aim away from yourself. So let's try again. Put the bullet in. Wow! Let's try it a couple more times. 100 ohm resistor and connect it to the output to see how the waveform changes. A quick calculation shows having 170 volt across 100 ohm generates 300 watts of power. It's like having a 300 watt lamp within your fingers. It burns your skin very quickly. Now I use pliers to hold the resistor. See, the output voltage drops, but with very small ripples because there is a lot of filtering. Wow, I was holding that. I let it cool down for a while and the ceramic core takes a long time to cool down, and now the hell? The hell? Why bad things happen to good people? Come on. Ooh. Sheer luck! Thanks to my flimsy wire connections to the transformer that fell off quickly, I only sustained some third-degree burns. My stupid long sparklers made my structure top-heavy, which of all people fell right on top of me. I leave a bunch of safety tips on my website, but such experiments are not worth dying for, so don't do it. Kind of works. It's a little bit weak though. Nothing that a strong drill battery can take care of. This baby is 12 volts compared to the two AA's that are 3 volts total. It's gonna give it the oomph that it needs. Okay, let's power it up. I better do this stupid shit that you will regret for the rest of your life. Hold the probe on one side and only touch one of the AC lines. Well, that was a pretty bad idea. I couldn't keep steady enough to read the stupid meter. and I could have died. See the... First, you plug it to the inverter. Anytime you connect a power harness, connect it to your load side first, so you wouldn't short your power supply or shock yourself. Here that I can feel, so it's impossible for this to excite a fluorescent bulb. What the f? Now this string is one that I couldn't fix with the lighter sparker and doesn't turn on either. Let's try the taser now. You should know better not to get too close to high voltage. Now, you heard me. Ow! Use the voltage a little bit. Okay, let's do 100 volt. Ready? Should be less painful. Ow. Okay. Ouch. What is it? What the? Ow. Ow, what the f is the current rising? Ow. Ow. It seems like at higher voltage and current, the skin doesn't limit the current anymore. It is failing one way or another, and its resistance is dropping, increasing the current. It'll be a hell of a pain. Okay, come on. Sorry guys, the pain is too much for me, but I'm sure it will. It opened! It opened! Install GFCI in bathrooms, people. Oh my god. Okay, finally, let's power it up. It's done. Let's turn it on and see how it looks like. The LED lights can be very intense and directional, so don't look into them directly as it may hurt your eyes. I like to put it on my tongue, but before that I have to reduce the voltage to something like 1 volt, because you know the resistance of the tongue is much smaller than the skin. And still, if I short the power supply, I get the same 150 amps. Okay, you can see it still sparks. Let's try it out. What the f? I thought I set it to 1 volt. Huge. Don't completely trust the gauges on your instruments and always double check them with a meter.